In 2002, only around 20% of US college students had myopia. In 2014, the number doubled to over 40%. Over one-third of the population in the world suffers from it. The problem is even more prominent in the East. 90% of Chinese college students are myopic. An epidemic is wiping over the world under our nose, or should we say, above our nose? So what causes it? Can we prevent it? And how do we prevent it? Welcome to Face-to-Face Science. Let's take a closer look at the true cause of myopia. First of all, we need to understand what myopia is, and to do so, we need to focus on our eyes. In principle, the eye isn't that complicated. The light-sensitive cells on the retina translate the photons they receive to numerous electronic pulses to our brain, which decodes them and turns them into image. But before the light hits the retina, it needs to pass through the lens. There are groups of muscles dedicated to changing the thickness of the lens by contracting and relaxing, thus to focus the light onto the retina, depending on whether the object or light source is close or far away. That's how our normal eye operates, but with a myopic eye, the whole length of the eyeball is somehow stretched, resulting in a longer eyeball. Therefore, no matter how hard the lens muscles try, they simply couldn't focus the light onto where it should be. The result is a blurry image, like a photo taken with an out-of-focus camera. So the answer to the first question is, an abnormally long eyeball causes myopia. But what makes our eyes long? For a long time, scientists think it is genetic, since identical twins have a much higher chance to be both myopic, comparing to non-identical twins, as confirmed by multiple studies. But the problem with these studies is that they didn't exclude the influence from environmental factors. A study about people living in Alaska basically disproved the genetic myopia theory. Of the 131 adults growing up in the isolated communities, only 2 had myopic eyes, but more than half of their children and grandchildren had the condition. There is just no way that gene would change that fast to result in such a dramatic increase in myopia. It's gotta be something else. That's when scientists started to look around. It is a popular belief that myopia is caused by spending long periods of time reading, watching TV, or looking at your cell phone. Johannes Kepler, famous astronomer and optic expert, blamed his short-sightedness on the intense study, and people find this theory very plausible. By the 19th century, some ophthalmologists were recommending students to use headrests in order to put some distance between the books and their eyes. As a matter of fact, in East Asia, where almost every young people are wearing glasses or contact lenses, the students spend significantly more time on studying. A 15-year-old Shanghai student typically spends 14 hours per week on homework, while it is only 5 hours and 6 hours for students from the UK and the US respectively. To strengthen the closeness myopia theory, a study in Israel conducted in the 90s found that teenage boys who attend a school where they spent a day studying religious texts had much higher rates of myopia comparing to the student who spent less time at their books. It all seems to be making perfect sense. Our bodies notice that we're spending a long time looking at stuff at close range, so they alter the length of the eyeballs for us to make light force on the retina without our lens muscles needing to do anything. Mystery solved, right? This isn't the answer yet. In the early 2000s, researchers were trying to find out what specific behaviors may link to myopia. They found that some people spent a long time reading, but they didn't have to wear glasses, while some spent less time with books had to. Simply put, they couldn't find a linkage between time spent reading books or using computers and having myopic eyes. Of course, the research hasn't stopped there. In 2007, researchers at Ohio State University reported a study that tracked more than 500 8 and 9 years old children in California. They all started out with healthy vision, no myopia whatsoever. Then they spent the next 5 years tracking on their behaviors, like how much time did they read, watch TV, the normal stuff. But they also asked something that no one has asked before. How much time did they spend outdoor? And that is the jackpot. None of the other factors was found correlated to myopia, except the time these children spent outdoor. The more time the kids spend outside, the less likely they need a pair of glasses later in their lives. A larger-scale study conducted in Sydney a year later yielded the same result. It seems that we finally have the answer to this mystery. But scientists being scientists, they need to rule out any other possibilities. Perhaps it is not about the time they spent outdoor, but rather the physical exercise they did that helped prevent myopia. So they did another study, this time comparing kids who exercised indoor and outdoor. Turned out they found that exercising indoor did not lower the chance of getting myopia. In fact, you don't have to do anything when you're outdoor. All you need is simply being outside. Whether you're reading or just chilling with friends, has the benefit of preventing myopia. At that point, scientists were comfortable enough to report that yes, lacking time outdoor is the cause of myopia. Now we know the why. It's time to understand the how. What exactly is it that makes spending time outdoor lower the chance of getting myopia? For this heavy question, light may be the answer, specifically bright light. Chickens have a visual system very similar to that of humans, so they are the go-to subjects when studying vision. This time, researchers put goggles on chicks that alter the resolution and contrast of the incoming images, thus inducing the development of myopia. They then controlled the light intensity of the room the chicks were in to study the myopia protective nature of bright light. They found that high illumination levels, comparable to those encountered outside, slowed the development of experimentally induced myopia by about 60%, comparing to normal indoor illumination levels. Other researchers were also able to replicate similar results in tree shrews and monkeys. So the magic power of outdoor comes from the fact that it offers plenty of bright light, nothing else. The next step is to find a mechanism that explains how exactly does bright light prevent myopia. The leading hypothesis is that light stimulates our eyes to release a kind of dopamine in the retina, which blocks the elongation of the eye. The best evidence for this light dopamine hypothesis comes from chicks again. Scientists injected the dopamine-inhibiting drug into chicks' eyes and found that light no longer had a protective effect. Turns out, there is a cycle for the retinal dopamine to be produced. It ramps up during the day, which makes the eye to switch to a cone-based daytime vision. The lower dopamine level at night would then make the eye to switch to a rod-based nighttime vision. In short, our eyes are naturally shorter at day in order to see stuff far away easily, and longer at night in order to see stuff up close. One of the ways our bodies can tell day from night is the brightness. Researchers suspect that under typical dim indoor lighting, the cycle is disrupted. Our bodies think that we're constantly at nighttime and need to switch the eyes to night mode by reducing the emission of the dopamine, which makes the eyes stay long for longer. This ultimately causes myopia. And that is the complete picture. Because of all this, scientists estimated that children need to spend around 3 hours per day under light levels of at least 10,000 lux to be protected against myopia. This level is like what someone will experience under a shady tree with sunglasses on a bright summer day. An overcast day can provide less than 10,000 lux, and a typical well-lit classroom is no more than 500 lux. To further prove the point, Australian children in average spend 3 or more hours outdoor every day, and the myopia rate is only 30%. Which is a very low number in the developed world. Another group of researchers launched a 3-year trial in Guangzhou, in which they randomly chose some 6 to 7-year-old students from 6 schools and arranged an extra 40 minutes of outdoor time. 3 years later, the group that got the extra time had a 10% lower myopia rate. A study done in Taiwan also yielded similar result. And that's the whole story. In this episode, we learned that myopia is becoming more and more prevalent all over the globe. It is not a genetic disease. Despite what traditional wisdom tells us, it is not caused by how close or how often you read books, but rather how much time you spend outdoor. The bright light from the sun helps regulate the development of our eyes, and since we are spending more time indoor, it messes up our eye development cycle, which causes myopia. This video is largely based on a Nature article titled "The Myopia Boom." We've put the link and sources below for your reference. If you like this video, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe. Until next time, thanks for watching.